Oh, welcome. This session is all about the space between I've got an idea and here are my keys to the shop. Instead of jumping straight into a long lease and big build out, we'll walk through practical ways to test your business in small, low risk steps, like pop ups, booths at the county fair, one off events, shared kitchens, and co working or shared retail spaces. The innovative rural business models are the best ways to make that journey. The five parts to the IRBM are tiny, temporary, together, traveling, and tech. I'll share stories about each of them, and as I do, I want you to imagine something like that in your community. And also think about how they can work together. Now, for those of you who are serving communities, these give you an easy way to add entrepreneurship promotion to your existing projects and activities. It's not about starting new things from scratch. It's about finding and building on the small steps that already exist in your area. Part of what holds potential new entrepreneurs back is thinking that going into business has to be this big and difficult long project. You have to find a building, product, funding, supplies, staff, and all of that before you even know whether your initial concept is actually sound. Seems like it takes a lot of time, money, and work just to get into business. Now, imagine building some steps in between. If you could have just a few products and test them using a pop up at a local event. If that works, try running a temporary business inside another business for a month or two. You'd learn a lot about what sells in your local market right now. If that works, maybe you could rent a small booth in a shared retail building. If something doesn't work, you can fix it and try it again. From there, jumping up to starting a traditional store doesn't seem as hard. You've learned what people want to buy. If your products are working, if they're priced right. So let us begin. Let's start with tiny. Now, this man has a shopping cart for a store with a few signs. He's parked on a busy street corner. He's selling corn, and it looks like pork rinds too. His initial investment is the cost of the product. That's a tiny start and a great way to see if people want to buy your product. And don't think, not even for a minute, that this is not an entrepreneurial business, because it is. Rather than expect all businesses to start full size, it's much easier to start something small. We've all seen coffee kiosks and pop ups, but it's an idea that we can extend to other tiny ideas. Starting small takes fewer resources and puts entrepreneurs at less risk from the big failures. Will is a middle school student and he's got this tiny business making bracelets. His first tiny test was at a festival in his hometown, at his mom's friend's booth. It didn't take much space at all. In fact, it's a tiny business inside a tiny business. Do these business models really make a difference? Yes, they do, and I'm going to tell you the story of artist Rose Ellis. She used to rent a big loft space to work and show her paintings, but it became just too much for her to afford, money-wise, health-wise, and time-wise, so she had to let it go. Now, Rose is another artist who rented just one tiny space in the window to display her paintings in a building in Grand Rapids, Michigan. It was an empty building, and the owner had invited lots of tiny businesses to share the space. In an interview, she explained how important this tiny space together with others was to her. She said, "You couldn't get me out of here with a crowbar. It's the best business plan I never thought of. It has turned my life around." Sheds are a good step to trying an idea out before investing in a brick and mortar building. They're relatively inexpensive, and this makes them a good option for incubating businesses that are just starting out. They are easy to build or modify, they're portable, and you can use them in lots of ways: workshops, offices, and retail space. It makes them very virtual for all kinds of businesses. Now, the old way of doing business was in buildings that match our downtown or are made of permanent construction. That's the hard way. These are artist shanties along Hyannis Harbor in Massachusetts. They're a popular tourist attraction. They are just sheds. The businesses here are using the innovative rural business models of tiny, temporary, and together. Now, they're used by painters, photographers, jewelers, and other craftspeople. They're open 7 days a week from late June until Labor Day, and they've come to symbolize summer. It's a competitive program by application only. In 14 seasons, they hosted over 700 artists who have collectively sold over $1 million of arts and crafts. Nacho business. This is just a tiny shed in a parking lot in Aberdeen, South Dakota, population 28,000, where you can get drive-through nachos. Nacho business. Instead of opening a big restaurant and the owner didn't even know if you had a product people wanted, he made his nachos in a shed on a friend's business parking lot. Scott Mueller from Kingman, Kansas, population 3,000, had an idea of how to fill an empty lot with grain bins and use them for tiny retail spaces. The vineyard was created. Each grain bin is available for rent daily, weekly, or monthly, indoor and outdoor marketplace. Even tinier is a table in front of a grain bin. Take a look at these kids who are selling garden foods and farm fresh eggs from a table in front of the bin that their family rented. What a great learning experience for both of those kids. Tionesta, Pennsylvania had a building burned down, and the block-long lot sat empty for 10 years. They were waiting for the next big business to come to town. It's a tiny town of 500 people in the Allegheny Forest. One of the Economic Development Board members had an idea. What if they put garden sheds on it and rented them out, like a business incubator? Another board member suggested they put facades on them to match the rest of downtown. So that is exactly what they did. Today there are 11 garden sheds. It costs around $50 a month to rent one, and there is a waiting list. They have a bakery pop-up, an artist, an American doll clothing maker, a guy who makes fishing lures in the winter, a barbecue place, and more. It's an attraction, and people come from all over to shop there. My friend Nina set up over a 3-day event that featured junkers, collectors of old things, junk, antiques, and some handmade products, to try out her idea of having a clothing store with some other cool products. Excuse me. It was a great experiment. She began developing a list of customers, sold almost everything, and she found out her price points worked. And pop-ups are just that, a small test of your business idea that pops up when and where it's needed. It can be as simple as having a table and your product displayed at a local event. They can be a way to test demand for a product or service. So by opening a pop-up shop in a specific location, you can see how many people are interested in what you have to offer. And this can help you to determine whether or not there's enough demand to support a more permanent business. Pop-ups can be a way to test your marketing and sales strategy. How do people react to your branding? How do they respond to your pricing? How do they interact with your products or services? By testing these things in a pop-up setting, you can get valuable feedback that you can use to improve your business models. They can be a one-time thing, available over a set time, even seasonal. Regular events can also work to build on the temporary business model, one small step at a time. The Pueblo of Zuni, New Mexico, population 6,000, had a very few usable commercial buildings. So they held a series of public market events to support their local Native American artists in growing their businesses. Now, the artists reach more customers together at these temporary events than they would have each on their own. Empty buildings are great for temporary use, allowing the entrepreneur to try their idea out. Now, imagine if you use the first 6 feet to at least create a window display promoting your pop-up at an event or another location. This window display is in an empty building in Alva, Oklahoma. But check it out. Imagine if you could make this an active store, like people could shop here. It's really like a 10 by 10 booth at an event, just it's in a building that's otherwise empty. We had a building owner in Webster City, Iowa that had several buildings downtown. I approached them with the incubator project idea. Put your buildings in the program and you offer 3 months free rent and reduced rent for the rest of the year. The chamber agreed to help the businesses that went into those buildings with their marketing. And the SBDC came in to help the business with creating a valuable business plan. Now, benefits to the owner of the building. At least their utilities were being paid by someone else. Every building needs love, and this provided that. The business could leave at any time. Remember, they're using it as a way to test out their idea, or they could stay as long as they wanted to. One of the businesses that used an empty building in the incubator project was a Mexican restaurant. The Mexican grocery store downtown wanted to open a restaurant, but they were saving to buy an expensive commercial range hood. In the meantime, they took advantage of the incubator program for 1 year. They tried different hours and foods to see what people liked. They also got to train their staff, and they made enough money to get that commercial hood. Together, new businesses used to need a lot of space. There was no way to run a business in a 1 square foot. Well, that's no longer true. One of our favorite innovative rural business model is shared spaces. The more business ideas that get tried, then the more entrepreneurs will have more opportunities to learn. If they can try out an idea with a pop-up display in a salon, they can learn more about what will work with local customers and, of course, gain market intelligence. The high school senior selling headbands this way is also a potential booth vendor at your next fair or festival, a possible future store owner, and at the very least qualifies as a local entrepreneur who's earning extra income for her family. One favorite example that any town can copy is art on the walls. This is Goffstown, New Hampshire, population 3,000. Each quarter, they install the works of local artists in area businesses. Now, almost every business needs some art on their walls, and almost every local artist needs places to sell their work. Put that together, and you have local art displayed together with local businesses. I love this story because it really is dead flat simple. It also takes advantage of what you already have. You have businesses, you have artists. Then it cross-pollinates two parts of your local economy that don't normally talk, the artist and brick and mortar businesses. They also put art in empty buildings to create an idea for new renters or buyers on what the place could look like. Rather than focus on each business individually, start thinking about how to create a new business inside or alongside an existing business. This can be retailers splitting a space or making use of an extra office in a service business, or even nurturing a tiny manufacturer inside of an existing industrial business. Now, this is a flower shop in Roscommon County, Michigan, that also has another business that sells produce, gifts, and tea. Oh, I love this one. There are many shop spaces at Twisp Works in Twisp, Washington, population 1,500. They took over a former forest ranger station and converted this equipment shed into small shop spaces, including these being used by a blacksmith and a birdhouse maker. Take your huge empty industrial building and divide it into two. Then divide one side into small shops. Now you'll still have half of it for a bigger tenant. And if you're worried you'll get a magic offer that would take the whole building, you can write a get out in 30 days clause into the tiny space rental agreements. These could be for makers, small manufacturers, crafters, craftspeople. You can create shared working studios, workshops, or even garages. The FFA kids and me are outside the Hy-Vee grocery store who shared their grills so these kids could cook and raise money at a shared kitchen pop-up. The other sign is the idea-friendly plan for the Malden, Washington Community Center to start using their community kitchen. Mobile, love traveling. Mo's Euros is located in Perry, Iowa, with a population of 8,100, and he parks downtown. Now, he has been asked to work in the state capitol and said no. Mo likes being close to his family, providing something different in his hometown and having more regular hours. La Bamba Food Truck in Webster City, population 7,800, started one summer just on the weekends only. It has done so well that it has expanded into a small taqueria and a brick and mortar business, and they're open 6 days a week. Food trucks are a great way to start a trial business. Traveling. Now, rather than expecting all businesses to start in one place or be limited to tapping just one small town as a market, rural businesses can move around in trucks, trailers, vans, anything with wheels. We've all seen food trucks, but it's also retail stores, services, and even professionals hitting the road to gain clients. This is a mobile laser tag game service that was hired for an event in Cosmos, Minnesota. Services can be tiny and traveling, two of those innovative rural business models. Now, dog grooming can be tough to make profitable in a really small town, so it really makes sense to travel to cover several small towns. I love this example that was sent to us of a grooming service using a big blue dog-shaped trailer to travel around. Leos, it's hard to find a place that will sharpen tools and knives, and Leo knows that. He converted a mobile home into a sharpening service and travels around rural areas. He parks in front of the hardware store, and those who need sharpening show up. And some shop in the store too. Now, one town may not be able to support this service full time, so a traveling route makes a lot of sense. Tech enabled. Let's look at how technology helps all our businesses get beyond the city limit signs. It's a new world and so many cool tech things are happening. Now, this is a group of industrial business owners visiting a tech maker space in an old John Deere factory. It's a great way to learn how to use tools, both new and old, and be around other startups and learn from each other. They got to work on 3D printers, visit with other tech businesses, and they brought those ideas home. Businesses can now effectively expand outside the city limits by using these tech tools and platforms. Brad Martin is a machinist in Webster City, Iowa, population 7,800. He had a little equipment of his own and he thought he had a good idea for a product to sell. He called it the bottle grenade. It's a keychain multi-tool bottle opener and made of titanium fashion statement. Now, he wanted to raise $2,500 to make these in his garage. It's a tiny idea, and you might even think it's not a good idea. But all that matters is that Brad took small steps and tested his idea. He put his bottle grenade on Kickstarter, the online funding platform, and raised $42,000 through advanced sales to people far beyond his hometown. There's a lot more tech-enabled businesses out there than we realize. Product sales platforms like Etsy and Shopify, service platforms like Upwork and Fiverr. Right now, small town people are working part-time or full-time as web designers, writers, programmers, creative artists, marketers, consultants, virtual assistants, and more, using technology to reach those bigger markets while working from their small town. Now I'm going to tell you a story about this guy, my friend Sean, who had an idea. Sean made the best kettle corn in the world. He'd cook up a batch on his stove at home and invite his friends over. They liked it so much, they told him he could sell it. It was so good, we called it kettle crack. Sean got a big pot and figured out how to use it to make his kettle corn in his front yard. He'd cook it up and then send a group text to all his friends. Bring your $5, the crack is ready. Texting, there's the tech portion. Tiny, it wasn't very big, and really just for his friends, and he made a few bucks. He got pretty good at it and built a stand in his yard and grew his business. He added another product, lemon shake-ups. He also spruced up his stand and made it portable so he could sell at festivals around town. So he was together with other small businesses at pop-up events. Now he was making better money and his family started to work with him. People started calling him and asking him to set up at fairs and festivals and events on a regular basis. Well, he figured he needed a trailer as it would be easier to travel with his setup, so he built one. Now, every weekend in the warm weather, he and his wife, and sometimes the kids, traveled all over the region selling kettle corn and shake-ups. He now had a real traveling business. But his business was non-existent in the winter months. So they put their heads together and came up with this idea. They wanted to sell soup and sandwiches from the trailer in cold weather. They asked the city if they could set up on the corner of a busy intersection in the park on the weekends, and the city said yes. Well, the hot sandwiches were a big hit. The soup was not so popular. It was good soup. It was just hard and hot to handle while taking it to your car. So they stuck with sandwiches. Oh, and they sold some coffee too. Now, this was temporary because it was a seasonal part of his business. He was also able to test his idea, find out what worked and what didn't, and created a business plan with real numbers from real sales. See, Sean now wanted a brick and mortar business. They liked coffee a lot, and the local coffee shop was for sale. He came to my office, I was the chamber director, and we helped him create a business plan based on his experience with his current sales. We put him in touch with the SBDC and the SBA to get financing, and he bought the coffee shop, where he also sells kettle corn, has a local winery that he has their wine for sale, and also sells sandwiches and soup. Now consider, who do you know that has a small idea or is an entrepreneur that can make use of the innovative rural business models? Well, it's time to take some action. What can your community do in 30 days? Who could lead the effort? Downtown organizations, chambers, cities, school, market managers, entrepreneur groups, or just someone with a good idea. Start with what you already have. Empty lots, parking lots, spare rooms, events, partner businesses. Here's a party for Day of the Dead. You can move that outdoors and have a lot of fun. This is Bernie, California, where they actually created a beautification group to clean up the empty lot, and it is available for events. And in McGregor, Iowa, they had a parking lot party. Here's some pilot ideas. This is a gallery art show on a fence with student art. Parents and grandparents always come downtown to see that. This one is shared retail space in another shop, just a table with some products on it. These folks have traveling coffee and do coffee outdoors. And I love this one because it's pretty simple, homemade. It's a tiny farmer's market. Pop-ups. You can also add onto another event. It doesn't have to stand on its own. So how do you measure success? Well, keep track of your numbers over the rest of the summer. This list is for the organizer to keep. The number of vendors, repeat participation, businesses graduating to permanent space and downtown foot traffic. Now, if you're a vendor, you want to track what prices worked and what didn't, who liked the products, what sold, did you make any money, and what suggestions did you receive? And give the vendors small enough steps that failure is just data. It's not bad. And do remember, not every idea has to last forever. This is just a trial and a way to test your ideas. Now, thank you. I want you to be sure to attend the keynote tomorrow. There's going to be a giant surprise coming for your e-community. Oh, I wrote a book, and there's the link if you'd like to buy the book.